Alright, welcome back to Pimp My Flight. So I have this plane today. It's called an A4 Delta Wing. Looks pretty good already. Looks pretty good. But, of course, if it's, it's still kind of plain. It's like, it's not, well, it is a plane, but, it looks like it needs some more, brewing. So I thought I could kind of make some changes here and there, kind of like make this thing a little bit more fancy, I guess. Oh, up to the level that I can actually muster. All right, let's see. So the first thing I've noticed is that this thing is kind of tall. We don't exactly need it to be that tall. As you can see, simply make it like this. But same thing is that the entire part down here is just gonna look kind of out of place, which is why we need to turn those corner into hard, so that it would kind of like blend that in, kind of like sink downward, I guess. All right, so that's the supposedly the cockpit. I need to check. Alright, doesn't look too bad. Although, making this thing a hollow part would probably be difficult. Alright, let's first adjust all this to smoothen out the plane. So I've just read some books after a few months of not reading anything. Well, it's not exactly some books, more like a bunch of transcription or stuff. So I read the Overlord light novel chapter. Well, it's a translation of the chapters on online. Chapter 15 and 16 is I think the elf kingdom chapter, basically. I love Overlord. It was definitely one of my favorite light novel to read, at least in the isekai genre, because it has some good world building, and I mean, the world building really isn't like the center of the story per se, but definitely, even when the world building isn't exactly what the author kind of like aim. Well, I guess maybe it's not. The author probably does aim to do a lot of world building, but I think the story centered around Ainz Ulgal, or like Mamonga, and his NPCs, as he's thrust into a strange world. He himself is thrust into a strange but familiar world with his guardians, his NPCs, but the NPC themselves are in a different world altogether. As in, like, they are suddenly becoming the no longer line of codes in the machine. It's more like turning to like actual beings with characteristic and stuff like that. Pretty interesting So pretty interesting kind of wow, okay. Is that how it works, this thing? Anyway, it's pretty interesting kind of like how you say it? Premise in the, because we don't usually see like, you usually see like isekais that in like, one person got transferred into another world, and the other world is like an actual world. It's either an actual world or it's a sort of like pseudo isekai, as in the it's a VR thing. But this is, Overlord is like both. So I mean, if you guys read Overlord already, so it's probably not any surprising. I'm just like describing it to people who haven't heard of the book, or the anime, or there's a manga, right? I think that should be, but the manga's way behind everything else. Wow, I could not reattach this thing. Hang on. Alright, I am being met with some resistance here. What is happening? So, yeah. Basically, the original world of the main character, who is actually not, whose actual name is Suzuki Satoru. So he's actually from like a future Earth, from what I can surmise. I guess, yeah. So basically, he's from future Earth, where we have like some ultra corporate future where it's like cyberpunk. It's basically, just imagine like a cyberpunk world, but instead of like overt technological advancement in the biomechanical stuff, it's actually more like advancement in the virtual reality tech, if you can understand that. So basically, if you have like the VR chat, or the much despised metaverse being the leading technology of the human civilization, then it would probably looks like that, where the Earth is basically in like a climate catastrophe already, and people kind of like seek refuge in any sort of like dome city where environment is like controlled, or they just have to like work in the the outside world where everything is like polluted. So like what do we do at that stage to like have fun when nature is like already kind of dead? So yeah, metaverse is the answer. So basically, everyone just like plays the same kind of like MMORPG, where it's like you hooked up into a machine like a Neuralink machine, and like basically you are playing like World of Warcraft, but in a Neuralink. So yeah, which is good premise. The characters themselves, they don't really question that kind of stuff, because like it's 2160 or something. At that point, it's way too late. Like I think the irony here is that why we read this kind of story, and then I definitely can see some people like, oh man, I would like to have that kind of game, but like that kind of game only exists because we have already destroyed what left of nature. Then again, that's not exactly the point of the story. It's more like just a backdrop, because our story here is that when that game eventually dies out due to some sort of like, maybe there's like it's not that profitable, maybe it's like there's some technical reason, but we don't know. I don't know, or at least I didn't really pay much attention to the first few chapters. The game just kind of like it closed down the server, stuff like that. That thing happens in real life, every time, you know, a good MMORPG kind of like, you know, just died, and yeah, they have to close down the server. Pretty sad. Thing is, our friend Ice Gal over here, I mean Momonga over here, he sort of like have some he want to say some last goodbye to the NPC character and the world that he has spent so much time in with his friend and stuff, because he's not exactly someone who has, like, you know, he's not in the world where, you know, making friend with people outside is like a thing anymore. It's pretty much like a freaking hellhole. So, you know, he definitely has a lot of attachment to that world, and so he want to leave some he want to, like, you know, spend some last bit of like memory in that game, and then, you know, and then he watch as the server goes down. But when the server goes down, he becomes like, you know, what is this? Like, why am I still in the game and stuff like that? And then he discovered that, you know, he's basically stuck in the avatar that he created for himself, and that the entirety of the guild base has been completely moved to a different planet, a different world that kind of operate in the same kind of vein as the video game world, but has some bit of an actual kind of like real life stuff. You know, it's not like, you know, you kill people and like they give you EXP or stuff like that. Although there are still levels, humans do have levels in the world, blah blah blah. But that's not. But like, you know, that's way too in depth. And also all of the NPCs that are brought with him also becomes like, you know, sentient being with emotion and stuff like that, which is you know, quite a predicament. So yeah, but that's a basic premise. Although if you are already a fan of Overlord or watch the anime, you probably knows that already. But that's basically for the people who didn't know. So spoiler alert for the next part, which is I'm just gonna say stuff about the part that I've just read, which is part 15 and 16. So basically, you know, the Ein's kingdom, like his kingdom where he, like, you know, built in the new world, has already kind of existed for a while now, and this kind of deal, and he kind of, like, you know, started to get a little bit like I want to get he's kind of like, you know, used to his role as the supreme being already, but, you know, it's kind of get boring from time to time, so he kind of want to, like, have some fun, and also he kind of want to, you know, let his NPC character who he kind of treats as his children also have some fun too. So, you know, he planned to, like, take the two I think I'll say water. Take this two elven character, his Hollows only have one, I think. His elven character, Aura and Mare, to the to an actual elven kingdom, so that they could kind of like learn what it feels like to be an actual elf, because they're NPCs. They don't really know much of anything about the world outside of their base of the Nazarick base. So yeah, he kind of wants them to, like, you know, go around and have fun. But of course, the basic plot of the story is that you know, the more he tries, the more Ainz tries to, like, do anything, the more people around him think that he's like some sort of 5D chess supreme, like, know it all god, kind of like, not like he knows everything, and he plans 10,000 years ahead, so nobody could, like, you know, comprehend his genius. So yeah, when he wants to have fun, people are like, oh my god, he orders to do this and this. That means he has like a plan in place where he is trying to do something that we couldn't even comprehend because he's so smart. So we we just kind of like follow him and stuff like that. So I mean, he also realized that, so he kind of wants people to like start having their own opinion. But of course, that plan's always foiled. So he traveled to the elf village, kind of really didn't really he didn't really encounter much of a problem in terms of like getting to the village and then blending in, trying to use the he used some sort of like magic where he concealed himself as like disguise himself as like a half elf, as like, and then say that he's the uncle of this is all spoiler alert, so uncle of the of Aura and Mari, and then blend in. But like the basic is that he's like in the mission, in like not the mission, he's like in the quote unquote vacation that he has, he actually got a lot of he found a lot of fun, going around, learning stuff, like trying to be like a normal person. But like his NPC characters, they're kind of like, oh my god, dude, the supreme being like grant us like a freaking choice. I mean, a mission that we need to do, and we're like, what do you do here? Even though he just like orders them to have fun, but like they kind of interpret that as like he wants them to do something. It's pretty funny. Like the entire of the story is basically just that. But sprinkled in with the politics of the new world. Basically, there's the world building of the new world is fascinating, but doesn't exactly matter because Ainz, once Ainz enters the picture, like basically nothing matters in the actual new world at that point, because like he's just way too overpowered, while everyone is like freaking like an ant. Like you wouldn't have a conversation with an ant, even if it's like intelligent and trying to say something to you. You wouldn't even realize it. Well, at least Ainz has the ability to, well, they are the people of New World are still sentient being after all, so he can kind of understand that. But like in terms of power, they are like puny. So like even like the most powerful beings probably like that are natives of the New World probably wouldn't stand much of a chance against anyone from the top leader of Nazarick. But like there are definitely people from before. Well, okay. So to explain, right? Ainz got transferred to the New World, but he's definitely not the first person to be transferred to the New World, because the New World has some property of the old video game that Ainz is familiar with, So basically, he kind of realized that there has to be some sort of like fuckery here, where there might have been people before me from my world, or at least from the game, and who got transferred. So he's trying to find people like that because he's alone. Like he has the guardian with him, but they are exactly people. He didn't really treat them as like he did treat him as people, but he didn't exactly treat him as like human beings stuck in an avatar like him. So he tried to find people like him, like also human being stuck in an avatar. Unfortunately for him, it seems that all of the other quote unquote player have already died before he arrived, at least about several thousand years. So only remnant and maybe some children of them left, and of course, I think at least one children of them are left because they are, well, not I think, but it's basically confirmed, right? It's Elf King. Spoiler alert. It's Elf King, who is features as one of the opponent in this chapter, in the chapters that I'm describing. But yeah. But man, I really like that. I really like Overlord because it's not exactly. Yeah, wow, I'm oh my god, I am going in a tangent here, but yeah. Every time I try to explain something, it's always turning into a tangent, and it doesn't really get to any. It doesn't get into the point, you know. It's not. It's and then I lost my train of thought, and then I just like say something else. Very irritating. Yeah. But I like Overlord because it's not exactly what you would think a it well how would I don't know how to describe this without I guess like it's something that is really Overlord is something that is a story is a as a kind of like story is really, how do I say this? It's really bizarre, you know. It's really bizarre. It's not in the kind of story where you would have like a character who is like growing in terms of power over time. You know, when you have like a isekai, or at least like a hero story, right? Well, some kind of similar story. You would have a character who start out weak, or at least start out with, little to no power, or at least, yeah. And then they kind of grow over time as they interact with the world. Of course, Overlord does have interaction with the world, and certain character does in fact grows, or at least change over time, because that's how characters are. But Overlord leans more in the everyone here is already kind of like, in terms of like power level, is already super overpowered. Basically can crush everyone in the new world like an ant. And but like, because I is not the kind of person who's like oh, I will just like destroy these people for fun. He's more like a very cautious, very like careful individual. So like he treats everything with extreme caution, even when it's not like warranted, or at least it doesn't. She shouldn't warrant, but and since he treats everything with such extreme caution, it's generally a lot of fun and hilarious moment, but also kind of satisfying moment where basically everyone around him is basically like treating him like a freaking genius, even though he's kind of like, it's just like him being himself, and then like the other outsiders treat him as like a freaking god who's like hiding something, because like it's either like treating him like a god because they have seen his power, or like treating him like some sort of lowly monster because he's hiding his true power. So yeah, the reveal, like the main appeal is that when he reveals his power, and then people are like in awe because they got crushed. It's really satisfying, basically, right? But like Overlord is not like I think it's not a how do I say this? It's not a story where it would like make, like, it sounds fun, but like it's not a story that many would be able to stomach, because there are a lot of stuff. There are a lot of stuff where you would consider like Overlord is, Isogal is basically like a freaking like Overlord. He's like a super lich, basically, right? He's a big skeleton mage, and like all of his subordinate are, most of his subordinate are like monstrous beings with ultimate, if like unfathomable power in terms of like uh, uh, raw power and like stuff. So everyone in the new world kind of treats them as like you know some sort of like divine god or like a freaking like super monster kind of deal. And definitely there are moments where you would consider them to be like super monstrous or like definitely evil. All of them are karmically in the stat are evil. Well, most of them. Um, and there are, I mean, we can understand Ainz as like he definitely doesn't consider the outsiders, the new world as like quote unquote people because he knows what people are. But like he doesn't really care much for the other like new worlder because they aren't exactly. See, I'm going on a tangent again. Yeah, they aren't exactly his. They don't share. They don't. Well, he appreciates his NPC because they share a lot of memories with him. I mean, they are a lot of they are the memories that he still have with his friend back in the old world. So it's like the connection with his friends that is, you know, kind of guiding him. But like he doesn't see the people from the new world as like quote unquote people. It's just because like from all he understand like they don't really matter. He didn't really come from the same world as them, and the fact that the people of the new world also doesn't exactly have a good moral compass. Well, most of the kingdom in the new world doesn't exactly have good moral compass, or at least doesn't have good moral justification. It doesn't exactly help them, but he can definitely understand that the people of New World are sentient beings. It just doesn't really concern him as they aren't exactly his friends, families, or stuff like that. If anything, he sees them as like convenient. Well, not convenient. More like people who customer basically. I mean, in real life, Suzuki Satoru is a salesman. He's a salesman. So he treats everything from the new world as like customer, where he can like sell his instead of like selling an item. He's more like he's selling a dream. He's selling a utopian dream where, I mean, he's technically is controlling a. I mean, he already kind of achieved the utopian dream country that he advertised, but like he's selling it as a product that like, hey, if you follow me, then basically you can get like prosperous for life, and then I can kind of like get make this world some sort of like utopia where when if my friend ever if ever they kind of like showed up in this world, and I can kind of welcome them to live here, and maybe like we can kind of like do some kind of like adventure together, like the good old days, some stuff like that. So yeah, that's his goal. The the NPC interprets that goal as like, oh, Ain-sama want to rule the world by any means possible, which is pretty funny because technically he is kind of like trying that, but essentially the means that he wants to do is like in peaceful mean, unless he like any of his follower got treated with some hostility, or he got treated with some hostility, or like there are people out there who are actually players but aren't actually like his friend, and doesn't see him eye to eye because Ainz Ainz actually comes from a guild where one of the most powerful guild in the game, and people from that game, if they ever discovered, or if they ever are present in that world at the same time as Ainz, they would probably not want Ainz anywhere close to them, and will probably be some sort of hostile forces to him. So yeah, kind of a predicament. He still he still craves that that human interaction, but his option is kind of limited. I mean, if I get anything wrong from the light novel or like the plot, then it's because I didn't really read in details. I'm just kind of like my style reading is just skimming through because I'm lazy. But yeah, that's probably the gist of the story. And the current chapter is basically just him trying to have a vacation, which kind of led him into a bit of a trouble where he discovered that the kingdom, the theocracy kingdom, where that is already kind of in a hostile position with him, is actually the kingdoms that it's actually the people that hurt his NPC follower, which he kind of which pisses him off a lot. Whoa, I don't want to do that. Alright. Well, this the fuselage plane doesn't really have anything to change, so I'm just kind of like moving on to the wing. Uh, this entire video has been me just kind of. I mean, there's not much here. I mean, you guys can look and deduct what I'm doing, right? I'm not much of a good explainer. I guess I can explain a lot of things good because I do actually do some tutoring, but that's when I get like really good grasp of what I'm doing, and when I actually know where to guide people to do. Right now I'm just kind of having a little bit of a relaxing time where I talk a little bit about the things I enjoy, so it's not exactly teaching anything. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out in the Simpleplane community who can actually like do a better job, not just teaching. I mean, not just like explaining, but more like definitely can do a lot of amazing thing with the actual builder. They can. I've seen some build where it's like absolute. I have no understanding of what is being done with the aircraft. Okay. Well, anyway, back to Overlord. Yeah. Where was I? Hang on. So the world building, right? So it says something about the world building doesn't exactly matter when it comes to Ein and then his friends. I mean, and then his NPC, because he's super overpowered. But like, still there are a lot of world building. Like there are a lot of in depth into the politics of the world, where kingdom like kind of vying for power, and then they're like inner country politics where nobles gaining some sort of like trying to get some sort of like advantage inside of the kingdom, then gain advantage with the sorcerer kingdom, which is Ain's kingdom, because they kind of see Ain's as like a, they kind of slowly seeing Ain's as like the supreme power of the new world. So they kind of understandably want to have some sort of like, good diplomatic relationship. But of course, Ain's being just like a freaking salaryman getting thrust into a position of power doesn't exactly concern. He doesn't exactly is concerned. I mean, hang on, correct grammar this time. He isn't exactly concerned with the well-beings of, or like the wealth of the people. The wealth that the new world people can actually offer him, because he's already like, he's just a supreme being. There's not much from the new world that can actually like, satisfy maybe, or like, that, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Basically, he has everything in that he wanted already. So not exactly. The new world doesn't exactly have anything they can offer him, to put it bluntly. Well, not entirely true, but the politician of the new world doesn't exactly have anything that they can offer him. He doesn't exactly wish for more power. I mean, if he want, he could just like squish everyone under his boots. But like, he doesn't exactly want to concern himself too much with the politics of the new world. He just kind of want to like, build a, in his naive way, he's kind of just want to build a utopia. Then again, like everything is achievable with enough power, with enough like, technological advancement and power. At least what is believed by the notion of the story here. I mean, normally you wouldn't think that the goal that Ainz was trying to make is like possible in the real life that we know it, because of one simple thing, which is resource. Resources are limited. They are not replenishable, and therefore there are a lot of conflict ranging from, stemming from the lack of resource between groups of people, basically, right? But because Ainz is like, he's in a world where resource management doesn't exactly matter. People can just like conjure food out of thin air. So yeah. It's like the Star Trek replicator. When you have that kind of technology, then war doesn't exactly make a lot of sense. Isn't it true? I mean, when you have the technology to conjure power and like conjure energy out of thin air and like stuff like that, there shouldn't be war. Then again, the magic, here's the thing. There's a magical paradox within the there's a thing called magical paradox. Well, I don't know if that's called like that, but there's a thing like that I kind of noticed within fiction, which is a magical paradox, which is when a technological advance is like so easy to produce. So easy to grasp that it doesn't require too much intelligence. Then the people of said world where such rules of nature exist, we'll never get past the kind of like barbaric mental state that before human, before the Industrial Revolution, which is what I noticed with all the fantasy, like all the fantasies that kind of like follows the rules of how do I who's the classical fantasy kind of stuff with Lord of the Rings kind of stuff, where you have magic and you have a different race of intelligent species. I mean, different intelligent species living together in like one single world, and you see all sort of like technological advanced stuff, right? Stuff that we would call magic, you know. I mean, any sufficient technology would be magic, but yeah. But like, even with all of those quote unquote magic going on, they couldn't exactly they couldn't actually exactly manage to build a world such as Earth, where we have like democratized government, or at least not democratized, but not monarchy, at least not monarchy. We went through a lot of social development and stuff like that kind of deal, and then we have the Renaissance, where it brings in the science advancement in like understanding of the world, where natural science becomes like evolves from just being the natural philosophy to where you just like observe stuff like that, to we experiment with stuff, and then we kind of like draw conclusion from those experiments, and then we check whether or not that experiment is correct, blah blah blah, stuff like that. Science, basically, right? So those fantasy stuff, when they have magic, they never advance to the understanding of the nature of the world, and instead they just stuck with the you learn this magic to cast spell, and that's that. And there was no understanding of the magic, where the magic comes from, or at least never in depth. They would only like the god is like this, and like this magic interact with this like that. There were no industrialization, because they never really needed industrialization to mass produce stuff. Then again, they never actually, those kind of magical fantasies, they never actually, I never actually see any sort of like mass production of stuff either. So it's really strange. You would assume that with that kind of magic, you would probably go ahead and like mass produce stuff like potion and stuff like that, for better healthcare. But people just still keep dying from shitty disease and stuff like that. It's really puzzling to see, So it's and usually when you have like an isekai fantasy, they don't really focus on the aspect of like bringing modern well, it kind of sometimes does bring modern knowledge into the new world that they are thrust into, but they don't exactly address it too much. It's more than just I just recollect how it used to be like this, and I just kind of replicate it using magic, and they never try to implement it by experimentation with the physics of the new world. Basically, Overlord didn't really do it either. But at least Ice that actually kind of try to. Well, he's not exactly a person who understands the law of physics, or at least does have a good grasp on physics. But in terms of like social advancement, he does actually do pretty well because he understands how it feels to be kind of like a salary man who is kind of abused in his world. So he kind of aimed to, you know, bring some kind of social advancement into that new world with him. To yeah, like that. Which kind of scratched my itch for the you know, how would we interact with we or trust into a situation like that where, you know, imagine like, you know, few hundred years into the future, or at least maybe not a few hundred years, maybe a few decades into the future, where maybe we discover some kind of tech that will allow us to travel faster than light, or maybe travel instantaneously through the wormhole, and then we use that to, you know, discover new habitable planet, and we found some like, you know, intelligence, but not quite not quite developed species, maybe still stuck in some in the dark age. Like, how would we interact with them? You know, kind of that, kind of stuff like that. The other stuff that I also like is Gate and Nihonkaku Sokan, which you might have seen some videos about, you know, equipment in that kind of. I mean, I made some planes inspired by that novel, right? Where the new world and our world comes in contact, either by portal or either by a sort of weird transfer mechanic that nobody understands. But instead of like just one person getting transferred, it's like entire country, or like it's the interaction between worlds. So it's pretty fun. Like, it gives us a scratch itch of like a kind of fantasy that is not usually seen in Western media, or at least in stuff like that. Not even in, you know, normal anime either. Gate and Nihonkaku Sokan. Gate has an anime, but Nihonkaku doesn't have an anime. Yeah. God, I'm going on such a stupid tangent here. I hope you guys can put up with the, you know, Rando's speech about his, just having a speech about his favorite series. Alright, I think I kind of want to have a roundel, but I think we should probably repaint first. What would I paint this thing as? Hang on, let me find the person, like, account. A4. Hyper 301. No, not exactly. It doesn't exactly have any sort of description that we can rely on to, you know, make a personalized sort of livery here. But I guess I'm just going with the whatever is available here. So blue. You know what? I like this. I like this color. This color. Kind of chill. Is it again? Might have already. Yeah. Huh. I don't know. I like colors from on the blue spectrum. It's definitely easy on the eye. Alright, let's compare the color between this thing. I want some darker color on the control surface. Yeah, it kind of sucks that you know, Nihon Koku Sokan is and Gate are, you know, really. I mean, you can't exactly blame them for this because the author is Japanese after all, and it's heavily leaned towards the Japanese audience. But like, I kind of want. I mean, there are fan fictions, of course. I've also read some of the fan fiction. But yeah, I kind of want to have some sort of like, no, not want, but I kind of hope that someday we will get to see some sort of like, you know, the entire world interact with a less advanced intelligent species kind of fiction, you know. It would instead not be like Gate or Nihon Koku Sokan, where you just kind of run in gun and blaze because, you know, these guys, they just came in here and they slaughtered our civilian, blah blah blah, stuff like that. I mean, I mean, most people are kind of into that kind of thing. I mean, you know, it's fun. It's you know, violence is well, we wouldn't say because it is violence, more like because, you know, you get to see, like, you know, modern equipment goes up against, you know, less advanced technological prowess. We don't exactly want to see our weapon getting used. After all, that would means a lot of death for and like the suffering for, you know, innocent people on Earth. But, you know, if it is in fiction, then nobody would care because yeah, that's what fiction is for, right? You know, to, you know, satisfy the urge that we human could not do in real life, because that would be very dangerous and morally wrong, I would say. And of course, to tell a story, to tell a good story is also a objective. But yeah, but instead of like, you know, the, you know, classic gun and blaze attempt at, like, you know, contacting with a new world, I kind of yearn for like a, well, I kind of want to find like a, you know, a fiction, like a very detailed fiction about, you know, making contact with a kind of similar kind of a similar less advanced civilization, where we would follow the SETI protocol. Not necessarily be alien, doesn't necessarily be need to be alien, but, you know, could be anything. Could be could just be like Gate instead. Oh my god, I forgot to put the wing into the wing 2 configuration. So now it's kind of like wobbly, and that thing is also clipping into the fuselage. Alright, that's not a problem. Just need to scale it back. No, 0.8. Like, you know, imagine, well, that's way too small. Imagine with the situation of Gate, where but instead of like, you know, the pseudo Roman people kind of like goes in gun and blaze. I mean, not guns blaze, they don't have guns, just like, you know, slaughtering everyone. Instead of that, why don't we have like a, you know, like a similar magical fantasy sort of civilization, yeah? Here now, but instead of them going in here, I mean, developing that kind of technology to go and, you know, plunder other worlds, they would instead, you know, be more like a scholarly kind of race, where they would go and like, let me see if this thing clips. It doesn't clip up, but it clips down. Very interesting. How would I solve this? Or maybe like this, right? Do you know District 9? District 9, the series, the movie where there's like a bunch of like alien refugee that lives in South Africa. Well, and like they appear to be in some sort of like they appear to have some sort of disease that severely damaged their intellect into the point where they became sort of like a savage kind of bunch, despite the fact that they have like a spaceship that can traverse the stars. Right? Imagine that kind of situation. Now, instead of like if the prawn from that series where they are aliens, right? Instead of the prawn, we have like a bunch of like elves. Yeah, a bunch of elf refugee who are like, you know, in a desperate attempt of surviving a genocide in their home world. They cast a spell that would transfer them to a new world, uninhabited. Well, not uninhabited, a new world that is inhabitable, and that they transfer to Earth in some sort of like fashion where they just kind of pop in, yeah, like a bunch of elven refugee, maybe a whole kingdom about like a few 100,000 people just kind of showed up in the middle of the American Midwest, you know. And then like, what do we do with that situation, you know? Like, first of all, I think, you know, first contact protocol should be, you know, activated. Second of all, it is a refugee situation where you know, the people aren't exactly there for harm, but like they are putting the human in a sort of like predicament where they wouldn't exactly know what to do. So, you know, well, not exactly wouldn't know what to do, more like they didn't really expect the situation. Like we have the first contact protocol when we want, I mean, to prepare us to talk to like aliens, right? But like, what if, you know, it's not like advanced alien, but more like a bunch of like, you know, a bunch of like Lord of the Ring elves, like fantasy elves, right? What do you do with that? And like, what do you do with the refugee situation? Like, it's gonna have there's gonna be a lot of drama. I mean, we already have a sort. I mean, we human already have a lot of problem with people looking a little bit different than us, right? Uh, discrimination, racism, and all that. Now imagine like having elves into the mix. Like, what do you do with that? Like, there are gonna be a lot of people who like this, who gonna be like instantly they're gonna dislike the elves, right? And then there are gonna be people who are like, oh no, we need to like be like a welcoming party, stuff like that. Of course. And then there are gonna be like the curious scientists who are like, wow, I wonder what the physiology of the elves are like. And then then there are like the mad scientists who are like, wow, I wonder what kind of like what kind of experiment can we do with this bunch, right? Because like there's a lot of question, like what exactly do you categorize elf as, right? Because we human obsessed with categorizing. Would we categorize them as people? Would they have human right? I mean, they aren't human. They are elves. They aren't human. So would human right be like applicable to those elves or aliens or orcs or whatever kind of race that showed up, right? And like and then there's got to be like some political drama going on where you will have a lot of opinion about this and that, and people are gonna debate, and then there's gonna be factions splitting off. It's gonna be all kind of fun stuff, and then there's gonna be like in the micro stuff as well, where the elves and the human can interact with each other, and then they learn about things that are normal here but not normal there, and all that kind of stuff. And of course, there's gotta be the the question of like, well, if the elves can transfer here, what about the the hostile force that force them to go to the human world? Like, would they also be able to like chase the elf to our world because that technology to transfer them here exists? Like, it would obviously be a threat, right? I mean, maybe they aren't exact. I mean, maybe if we learn enough about them, we would know that they are not exactly a threat to us. The technological advancement wouldn't be as big of a deal, but of course, magic, right? Magic is like a game changer almost. It would be a lot of benefit. There would be a lot of benefit for human, for us, if we can get our hand on that magic tech. All right. Okay. Roundel is here. Not exactly sure which color should I put it in. Maybe this color is fine, like green, white, blue. And then there's a whole freaking speculative biology. Oh my god, I love that kind of stuff. Like a lot of fantasy, where a lot of the fantasies that I've just mentioned kind of gloss over the aspect of speculative biology. Like you have a whole new world, like a whole alien world to explore, and you don't exactly give us any sort of like description about the animals, the nature of that world. Not a whole lot. It's just like passing stuff. I kind of like want to have like a fantasy. This maybe the same, maybe like a different branch of the same kind of thing, where it would be like a scholar, like a scientist who goes about into the new world, explores the new world, just as the good old natural philosopher back in the day does, and like take notes of the culture and the nature of that world, to further our understanding, our thirst for knowledge, kind of stuff like that. Okay, I guess there's Star Trek. I mean, I guess there's Star Trek, but yeah. But I kind of want specifically like, fantasy race. Like not just spacefaring, but fantasy stuff. All right, I like that kind of look on this stuff here. Maybe I should implement this building tactic a little bit more, where we cut a little bit of the stuff and then we fill the part with the opposite part. Okay, how is it? Okay, 50% over here and then 0 down here. Same with this thing. Yeah, that kind of stuff, that kind of fantasy, that's what I like. His the YouTuber Holchilaga, I don't know how to spell his name. But like, I really like his content because he scratched the itch of like, a natural philosopher who is like exploring new alien worlds. Did I use different colors for this? Come on. No wonder it looks kind of weird. All right. I don't know. I don't think red would fit that much. Maybe yellow. Maybe green. How about this? All right, kind of much better. Yeah. This entire conversation has just been started because I was just done reading Overlord. But yeah. Alright, I think it's time we save this and let it fly a little bit. Also, this design has a really fascinating choice of gun placement right in the back of the right in the front of the horizontal stabilizer. Not exactly a place you would expect to see guns, because you would have to aim, right? You would have to aim a little bit lower. Wait a minute. The original freaking design doesn't have semi-symmetric, it seems. Or, oh my god. I really hate making planes with delta wing design because I just can't figure out how to make the how to like make it fly basically, right? I mean, look at this. The control surface is just all over the place. Not sure what even to use. Like, does symmetric or flat bottom matters? And like, what kind of configuration should it be in? I'm just very ignorant of this problem. Alright. Come on. Okay, so it cannot take off in this configuration. Let's see. How do I change this? First of all, we're probably gonna need this with semi-symmetric. Pitch should I don't know. Maybe trim is on. Not sure if that really changed anything, but let's try. Come on. Okay, cannot exactly control it using this manner as well. I have made a few delta wing design before, but none of them are good because I cannot figure out a way. I cannot figure out the proper configuration for the delta wing to take off. Perhaps inversion must be yes. Oh yeah, that seems to be the case here. Okay, balancing needs some works. Probably because the nose of the plane is definitely very light. So should probably do something about that. Put some 500 pounds there. Let me add a propulsion fuel tank. Oh man, that is really unstable. I think. Okay. Hang on. I'm gonna save this. It's not gonna be the end design. I'm just gonna like glance over at the original design here and see what is the stuff here. Pitch no off, roll no off, and pitch no on. Okay, it flies though. That's the thing that I haven't checked. Oh yeah. Yeah, it can definitely fly. Maybe not not well. It doesn't fly very well. So the problem here is that the pitch in the wing, in the delta wing, definitely is causing the problem. So, you know, because of my lack of knowledge in making that delta wing works, I'm just not gonna have it present at all. Let's see if this works. I mean, we already have the vertical stabilizer. Usually you wouldn't even have just the vertical, I mean the horizontal stabilizer, right? Usually you wouldn't have that in the delta wing, right? The whole point is that you eliminate the drag of the horizontal stabilizer. So yeah, see? I mean, we can take off without that, and we fly a little bit better now using this configuration. Oof. Didn't dodge. Still haven't checked the gun as well. So let's do another round. Oh man, I kind of want to find like a fan fiction where, you know, you got a scientist who like got isekai, or at least his world got isekai, and then he kind of like, you know, go and document everything that is, you know, in the isekai world as a scientist would. You know, you don't have that stuff usually. You only have like, oh, salaryman got isekai'd, or like, you know, student got isekai'd, or like some weirdo. But usually salaryman. I want to have like a scientific, like a natural biologist get isekai and see what he does, you know? Like what would his reaction be? Like, would he find the new world kind of like fascinating, or like I mean, of course he would. He's a scientist. Like he would, like it would be as much of a you know, imagine this, right? I mean, if you're like a natural, if you're like a biologist, or like maybe you are like a physicist, and you go to the new world and you find like magic stuff, right? And you got isekai and you got like magic stuff, and you're like, oh my god, I can utilize this as like a in a way to like, you know, make free energy. Wouldn't that be awesome? Like he utilized his magical, he utilized his physics, or like his natural science logic and knowledge, not logic, knowledge into like the other world to you know, figure out a way to like make that world better, and like build it into like a technological advanced societies as his Earth is, but like even better. So far, I've only seen like people over relying on magic, or like, you know, people over relying on our own technology, or at least using it in terms of like military instead of like, you know, civilian application, or like not just even civilian application, it's more like, you know, just curiosity for and the thirst for knowledge. Alright, Royal Air Force it is then. Well, that's gonna be it for this plane. I definitely like the design. I still can't comprehend the wing configuration for a delta wing aircraft in this game. and of course in real life too. Yeah. So definitely, that is definitely a weakness in my part, and still have a lot to learn. All right. Well, that's gonna be it for this part. I'm out.